Oh, my chair is so squeaky. This is gonna be a fun video. I can already feel it. Okay, let me just compose myself. Hey guys, this is Cedric. It is currently 10 p.m. and I decided to make this piece of content because some people have contacted me and also have asked me about advice, and also this is just through friends, siblings as well sometimes, on how to apply in terms of writing your personal statement to university. And that just kind of catalyzed me to reflect upon my own experiences, but also decide to make this video, which is me reading my own personal statement that I submitted to apply to universities such as Oxford, LSE, UCL, KCL, and Durham almost 3 years ago. I think for Oxford, to be honest, it doesn't matter as much. It's more about your TSA and then your performance in the interview, but maybe it still has an impact. But definitely for LSE, it's one of the most important factors on whether or not you get in. So I guess it did an okay job. I don't want to toot my own horn in that sense, but you'll see why I think it's so cringe now after studying politics and economics for 2.5 years now. I don't know if I'm gonna give any tips and tricks along the way. I'll find out. Don't know how likely that's gonna be or how useful that would be. Maybe the application process has changed from the last time I've seen it, but I still know that you still do need a personal statement to get in. So maybe just reading through this might give you an idea of how to structure it, but do know that it's not the same for every subject, and it might not work for like other subjects at the LSE, but I still think the personal statement is an opportunity to tell a story about you yourself and why you want to study the subjects that you're applying to, and to a certain extent I think I did an okay job at doing that. So why don't we just dive straight in, and then hopefully you guys can see why I think it's quite funny. Alright, first paragraph, first line. You gotta always start with a banger, by the way. Having a view was something I lacked. My desire to understand party politics provided an impetus for me to find a face to stand behind, and the UK's cultural melting pot exposed me to the whole political spectrum. Yet what prevented me from attaining an opinion and intrigued me the most was why economic development did not top the list of people's priorities, and why deep-rooted prejudice and populism overrode the ideals of globalization. Okay, so having a view of something I like, I felt like I was really happy about that sentence because it definitely grips the attention of the reader to some extent. But for most of this paragraph, my goodness, I felt like I was just using really big words to impress the reader. Economic development did not top the list of people's priorities. Well, I mean, intuitively, I guess people would just vote based on their feeling in some senses, and you can see that around the world, and you guys might have intuition on that, and I suppose I wrote that as trying to adopt a very rational mindset on economic development. But obviously people have different priorities, and that's the case, but I guess it was just trying to get a sense of me understanding a bit deeper why it wasn't prioritized. I don't know. It makes it seem as if I prioritize economic development myself, when in reality that might not be the case. And why deep-rooted prejudice and populism overrode the ideals of globalization. I mean, the funny thing is, when you think about it, right? Implicitly, this kind of shows that I already have a view. Or maybe I'm just questioning it. I don't know. But it feels like I've already constructed some sort of view here, like why one tops the other. To some extent, would say your view is skewed to one side already, but I'm not sure. I feel like, I don't know, I was just using big words, to be honest, for this first paragraph. So yeah, I mean, it was okay. It grips the reader's attention, but it's also, I feel, what's good about this, it shows like the beginning to the story as to why I wanted to study politics, philosophy, economics, or political philosophy and economics. Alright, so the second paragraph. Hungry for perspective, I pursued economics as a guide to politics. Pretty good. I was initially drawn to the idea of a controlled economy coupled with the dissolution of concentrated political power of the wealthy, with Stiglitz in his Price of Inequality. That book was actually pretty good. It gives a good understanding of like concentrated power or political power and its connection to wealth and monetary power. And yeah, it did give me a bit more of a view, actually, more leaning towards the left as a result of reading that. So alluring as this attack on rent-seeking was, I needed another argument to consolidate my views. So I went to the other side, obviously. Hayek's road to serfdom characterized the interventionist government as autocratic. Polarized as his views were, his regard for an effective welfare system, especially in wealthy nations, was an attractive feature of his libertarian position. Yet economics for me lacked practical clarity. I guess economics in this sense, or in the sense that I learnt in the International Baccalaureate, lacked practical clarity, but I didn't really substantiate that. I suppose that was just implied by what I was studying already. And I mean, to a certain extent, I agree. I mean, you're writing about models, you don't really see like demand and supply curves in real life and so on, so maybe behavioral economics would have been much better to learn, but obviously they don't really teach that as much at a high school level. And this paragraph was just introducing text that I read that one was really niche, so price of inequality I felt like was quite niche. Not a lot of people talk about that. Sometimes people make the mistake of putting free economics in your personal statement. I think people advise against doing that. And then road to serfdom, I mean, it's also quite an interesting book, but I would say it shows that, you know, you're deep diving into some quite deep literature, even though it might be more common to the rest. And the point of the paragraph and the sentences that you use, because you have so little space, is to show that you have read the text. So just talking about rent seeking as a really key topic in the price of inequality, and the interventionist government, as well as the effective welfare system in the road to serfdom, shows the reader that, you know, you're not just, I mean, maybe you are just looking at spark notes, but perhaps if they bring it up to you, you'll be able to defend your position. So that's that. Okay, third paragraph. I require statistical rigor beyond IB economics to ground my knowledge of theoretical models. Reading a macro blog by Ren Lewis and Krugman's piece on the austerity delusion exposing the lacking clarity in economics. Models easy to interpret are used to disguise the austerity's failure to provide for the poor, whilst the benefits of immigration were clouded by prejudice. This only made me more skeptical of politics rhetoric. I wanted to go a step further. If I'm honest right now, I don't really remember what I was talking about. Which is like, obviously makes this so much more difficult. Wait a second. Okay, I'm back. My computer screen turned off, and I also needed to get water because I didn't know how much I'd be speaking. But alright, yeah, I was I guess just trying to show that I went beyond IB economics in this paragraph. Ren Lewis, really technical analysis, I think, from what I remember. I don't read his blog anymore, unfortunately. And the piece on austerity was quite interesting. I think they did a YouTube video on it that was really good as well, which kind of just showed, like, for example, conservative models or neoclassical economics, how some interventions might be boosting economy, but that might only lead to distribution to the most wealthy rather than to everyone. And that's why austerity's failure to provide for the poor was listed in that paragraph. This only made me skeptical of politics rhetoric. I wanted to go a step further. I guess that just shows the more linkages that I put into the story. Again, each paragraph has like a segment and an element as to why it's like a cascading style where it all adds up to me wanting to study these subjects in combination and how they kind of fit and mold into one another, which I think is a really interesting way of writing a personal statement. It might not be everyone's cup of tea, it might not fit everyone's own personal writing style, but it kind of fit mine, so it was just more of a storytelling technique. Unsatisfied with the foundation of my knowledge, I wanted to explore the roots of these positions. So when you see this, like, it's going from surface level, like economics, and then you go a bit deeper and deeper and deeper, and then this is where it hits the philosophy bedrock. These right-left principles seem to be too constrained, so finding a critique through Amartya Sen's theory of justice and digesting the nuances of his social choice theory had me recognize the importance of dealing with injustice rather than pursuing ideal institutions to solve our problems. So that book was really good. I wrote my extended essay on that, and the whole idea behind that book was like, we shouldn't be aiming for ideal institutions. We should just be aiming for solutions to certain aspects. Obviously, now you think about it, like perhaps you do need institutions to do that. But again, the idea is like you don't need the ideal institution to do everything. You just need an institution to begin solving these injustices. What is injustice? I don't know, big question. So it was like, here's political philosophy. So we're going a step deeper from the economics as a guide, and then we're trying to digest a bit more through more theoretical models and so on. This led me to write an extended essay on the free market as a condition for distributive justice, understanding that a single principle cannot encompass all our needs. Makes sense. Yet the dichotomy between objective principles and evaluative theories was unclear. I required a criterion to demystify these arguments. So again, we wanted to go a step even further, and so we're hitting the philosophy bedrock now through the paragraph preceding this. Again, this paragraph, I guess, was just simply out of passion from reading that book and doing the extended essay on it, and it was pretty easy to write, I suppose, compared to the other paragraphs, because you've had experience with that literature, and you study that literature so much that you're in a really able position to defend it and so on. So given in an interview that you asked that, for example, if you applied to Oxbridge, or given in the case that you have to defend it to your teachers and so on, doing an extended essay on a book is a really good thing to add to your personal statement, as that shows that you've taken the initiative to go a step further in learning about these theories that you would be learning more deeply in university. Next paragraph. Philosophy promised clarity. I read Putnam's Reason, Truth and History to gain a footing in the analytically rigorous practice. I saw the meticulous use of logic and its ability to resolve philosophical problems, finding terms such as relative and objective foundationally unstable. My gosh. The contention between the relative and impartial states of morality brought further insight into my political views, pushing me to write an essay for the John Locke Institute on Moral Luck and its practicalities, for which I was a finalist. So, the Putnam thing, be honest, when I read it, I did read it, I just didn't really understand it. So I had to reread it a few times, but kind of just grasp the core concepts, but I don't think I fully grasped the book because that stuff was way too deep for me, and that was really hardcore philosophy, like logic and so on. And if you have a knack for that, then good for you, but I didn't, and I just had to include it, I suppose, because that was an element of the PPE.
What the hell?
By the way, I just do politics and economics, but the part of politics has philosophy, so political philosophy in it, which is why I applied to that in the LSE. I did write, that's a bit of a plug, maybe they did catch it, that I was a finalist for an essay competition. I guess it kind of shows again your initiative and your ability to excel in the subject, because you're putting in the work and effort to really participate in these things that show that you'll do well as a university student in these subjects. So if you're able to do that, then go ahead. It's extra work, but it might be worth it in terms of your application. And sometimes it looks good on a CV as well if you're thinking further down the line. My explorations helped me develop an understanding of politics. Mearsheimer's Power Politics discussed the importance of hegemony and wealth for state survival. I saw this rejects the Economist report on Israel-Palestine. The paper's argument for a Palestinian state to preserve Israel's democracy was attractive, but Mearsheimer would predict a continuous struggle for totality, which is pretty true. I mean, that is seen in the practical context. Grounded in deep intransigence of religion, the conflict would last. Perhaps the paper's opinion did not account for offensive realism, with only an optimistic conception of cooperation disregarding concerns of power relations. This paragraph, actually reading it now, is pretty good. I won't lie, it is pretty good. Mearsheimer's Power Politics was actually a very good book because it's practical and he's had practical experience in real politics. So that was a pretty good book to read. And I just plug The Economist because they love if you read The Economist. By plugging in a big article in them and showing that you've read them and see how you apply theories that you've read in a book to real life examples, I mean, they just soak that up, man. If I'm honest, they just love that you can do that, because again, it shows how you're translating your university knowledge to real life applications, and that's really particularly important in political science modules where you see stuff happening day to day, You're potentially conducting field experiments or you're modeling field experiments to take these things into account, and that's why this type of paragraph I really enjoy it. If you think about it, you're like building it. For example, you're cooking something, you're thinking about the recipes, you go all the way to the first ingredient, like a completed pizza, for example, and then you go all the way down to the base, which is the pizza dough. But then at the end, you're kind of showing the pizza again in its final glory where it's cooked and the cheese is super stringy. I mean, that's the analogy that I would give you in terms of the personal statement. So this paragraph here really just tied it all together because there was a real practical example and there was another piece of reading that I included that just linked everything in a very, very nice and concise manner. That was really, I mean, that's a pretty good paragraph. I don't know why. It's pretty good. And okay, second last paragraph. I was exposed to realpolitik in its practice, co-leading a resolution on the issue of Cyprus at The Hague, or Thyman, which I called it, The Hague International Model United Nations, made me understand the need for coercion, cooperation, and conviction. Love a trifecta with alliteration. I mean, that just kind of sticks in your head. Whilst learning French cemented a sense of internationalism. My gosh, that is, I feel like I shouldn't be saying that now. That's just really, really horrible. It sounds as if you, I don't know, I feel like maybe don't say that now. That might be a bit inappropriate because like, sure, learning a language does learn a bit of culture, but I mean like internationalism, not really. I mean, especially if you're isolated within a school within Britain, you're not really experiencing as much of the French culture as you desire through this internationalistic outlook. So that was just me trying to just add an extra jab, which on reflection probably isn't that great. Further, running a mock election showed the importance of organization and inspiration, whilst debating gave me the ability to think on my feet to produce coherent arguments, no matter the side you are given. So all of these activities, extracurricular activities, are here to show the link again to PPE, but also add to, you know, leadership capabilities, organizational capabilities, time management capabilities, all of these things which make you look as if you will be a really good university student, and that's what they really want to see, because evidently at university you're going to be self-studying a lot, you need to time manage yourself, not that that has been very successful on reflection, but you know, all of these things are a key part of it. And you have to take that into account, so that's why I included those. And perhaps I could have done a bit more on extracurricular, like you don't want to look like just like a robot geared for PP, and I guess that's true. Perhaps I could have included more about like basketball, which I did in secondary school, or like the sports, which I did, or other activities that weren't geared academically, like doing other activities, such as cooking, that would have lent myself to be a more holistic character. So perhaps when you do write this, you can include those aspects if you didn't go as hardcore as I did with all of the reading. But yeah, that is why I include that paragraph, to kind of just make me look more holistic rather than just a bookworm. Not that being a bookworm is bad, they just want to see more of those characteristics when you apply to university. Final 2 lines. I think I have formed a view, but that is always subject to change. To develop, understand, and fight for a belief comes from an essential understanding of philosophy, politics, and economics. So again, this was just to tie everything up and also just review as to why, like, come on, why you want to choose these 3 subjects or these 2 subjects, because that's the whole point of the story. That's the whole point of the personal statement story. You're trying to tell that story that you've gone through all of these phases, like you've gone through constructing that pizza, and you want to bake it as well as you can. And that's why you need to understand all of the different ingredients that come into baking the pizza. And I love this freaking analogy, by the way. You have to understand all these ingredients that come together to make the best pizza possible. And like just dipping your toes in and showing that the university admissions officer that you have dipped your toes in really lends credibility to your ability to excel in these subjects at university. So yeah, that's been my personal statement. I talked so much in, I don't know, a span of 15 probably minutes, and hopefully it was useful and you guys can get a kick out of it, because if you're applying to LSE, maybe this helps. If it doesn't, then I'm sorry I wasted your time if you watched all the way, but hopefully you enjoyed it. You can find a copy of my statement below. I'll link it. I'll probably link some Google Drive link or something. LSE as an institution has its challenges, but it's one of the leading academic research institutions in the world for social science, and that's why, I mean, these subjects kind of excel here, and you lead or you work with a lot of leading minds and a lot of smart people that will propel you to learn a lot of different things and form of you, like I mentioned in the start of my personal statement. So that's pretty much it from me. I made this content super late in the evening. I'm gonna edit it somehow tomorrow in the morning after I manage to upload it. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and hopefully you learned a thing or two. Or if you're in university with me, or you graduated, or you're just watching this because I don't know, you want to watch a university vlogger of like just like chilling, reading his personal statement and cringing. I hope that was fun for you at least. So thanks so much for watching again. This is Cedric. I'll see you guys in the next video. I am releasing that computer build video sometime soon. I don't know when. I just have to get all the footage together. But thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys are staying safe, healthy. Make sure to like and subscribe. I never really say that, but I mean, go ahead if you want to. But yeah, thanks so much, and hope to see you guys very soon. Peace.